we talked big picture when we were looking at the genealogies that Moses gave us a big picture. We talked about, and part of it where, if you go back to chapter 10, verse 5, these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. Big picture of how the tribes or the different people groups got moved around. Today in chapter 11 of Genesis, Moses zeroes in and takes a microscope to what caused the division of tongues and to have people scattered across the earth. So in chapter 11, verse 1, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech, which makes sense because at this point, everybody in the world at this point came from the 3 sons that got off the ark with their wives. So it would make sense that the entire population of the world at the time was of one language. And it says, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. A plain is a perfect place to dwell. It's open, it's flat, it's easy to build, it's it's easy to protect because you can see anybody coming at you. But there was a problem. What were the people after they got off the ark told to do? And populate the earth. What's that, brother? Be fruitful and multiply and populate the earth. And it's interesting, this area where they settled, this plain in the land of Shinar, is the area where Babylon is, where Babylon ends up being, which has been a thorn throughout history for the Israelites, the Babylonians. And also, this is, if you go back to Ham's descendants, this is Nimrod's people that settled this area. And Nimrod was a thorn, that's not the right word. Nimrod, he was against the Lord. He did not follow the Lord. He killed people. He was a hunter of men, if you remember. So in this area where Nimrod's people start to first settle and start to build cities, is not what God wanted them to do. In verse 3 it says, and they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime had they for mortar. They've got a plan. They're going to start building. They had to have brick, so I'm assuming for brick at that time, they probably had to have some straw to mix in it, Bill, I'm guessing, probably. Some straw, some mortar to be able to fire the brick, to be able to make it strong, to make it last. So they probably had some fields that they had planted. And once they had the materials to be able to make the brick, they started making bricks so they could start building. And again, if you go back to what God wanted them to do, was to populate the earth, not to stay in one place, which coming up, God takes care of his plan himself. And then in verse 4 is when things start to go wrong for him. I mean, really wrong, to where we can see something that's happening. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make a name. There's the man's pride that we talked about last week. Let us make a name for ourselves. Let us build a tower to heaven and make a name for ourselves. And we've not stopped trying to make a name for ourselves since, have we? I mean, it's all about us. And in Nimrod's people, that was the same thing they wanted to do, was make a name for themselves. But the last part of that sentence tells us why they wanted to make a name for themselves. What was God's instruction?
Fill the earth.
Fill the earth. What's the last part of that verse 4 say? Lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. God said, go fill the earth. Man said, I don't want to. We haven't changed a bit, have we? We want to be here. Matter of fact, we want to be here so bad. We're going to make brick. We're going to make slime. We're going to build a city. We're going to build a tower. We're going to do everything we can to make a name for ourselves so we don't get spread out. One of the things I wrote down was God's instruction was a long time before that, hundreds of years before that, though. Does that instruction still count, though, even though it was a long time before that? So God's instructions don't change over time? Unless he says different. But isn't that what we hear today? That was a long time ago. Things change. That Bible is outdated. That doesn't matter today. Oh, that stuff is old. It was the same principle back then. Lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. What God wanted earlier, after the boys got off the boat, didn't matter to them because that was a long time ago. Doesn't change.
It's kind of like when our parents, when they want to tell you how to do things when I was younger. It's like, hey, that's old stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's you want to hear all that. Things change now. We don't have to do that.
Did you ever think your parents were dumb?
Well, I didn't think they were dumb. I just thought they were outdated.
Outdated. Well, outdated.
when I wanted that looked like one of the Beatles, with the tight pants and of course when I had hair back then, I wanted my hair to be down in my eyes. And when Dad came in on the weekend, every Saturday, it was a barbershop. And there wasn't no hair on the side of your head already. It's like, back in them days, everybody, wanted that haircut and everything.
Yeah.
You're going to school, and, you see the skin on the side of your head, everybody's looking at you like, what's this guy, what's wrong with you? Now, anything else, back then, it was like, But anyway, the thing is, I'm trying to say is that the same way with us,
Yeah.
Even now, we try to tell the grandkids, just don't do that.
You're old-fashioned.
But I sit down and talk to them a long time, and I've told them, if you don't start it, you don't get hooked on it.
Yep.
Don't smoke, don't drink, don't take these drugs and stuff. I said, you ain't no different than nobody else.
That's right.
We all are the same. And I said, more likely, you're gonna get hooked on it like everybody else does. Well, start smoking. I can't get off of it. I know, I told you.
Yeah. Yeah. Dad cut my hair when I was a kid, too.
Well, Dad didn't cut my hair. We just took it down at the barber shop
Oh,
every Saturday.
yeah.
I mean, it was like, and then if he ever forgot, it's like, hey, there's a little bit there growing right there. Maybe I get that kind of hat, He come back and he start looking at you here like, did we get that last weekend?
Yeah, the ones, the dads that had the flat top.
Yep.
That was my dad, yeah, he had a flat top.
Yeah. Dad would cut the dog's hair, and then next was my turn with the same clippers. I mean, that is the honest truth.
Cut his bangs with the pinking shears.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, in the 70s, you let your bangs grow long.
Yeah.
And Dad didn't like that. And I don't know if anybody here sews, but if you don't sew, you don't know what a pair of pinking shears are. But it's the little jagged scissors that a seamstress uses to cut. He cut my bangs with those. And then he tried to come along behind and nip the little triangles off. And yeah. And it was my fault.
I thought I kind of lived in a strange family.
Oh, you may have. Oh. But verse 5, and the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. The Lord came down. So why did God come down to see the city and tower that they built? I think this is an interesting verse.
Probably because he wanted them to know he was present and they're aware.
Okay, yep, I like that. Mm-hmm.
Were they trying to build a tower so that they would never be killed by a flood again?
No, because they wanted to reach heaven. Yeah,
Making their own way to heaven, huh?
they're trying to.
That's why he came down.
But isn't that what we do?
Coming through him.
That's that's what we try to. We try to work our way there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, but I just think this is an interesting verse because he knows all. He didn't need to come down. He knew exactly what they were doing, how they were doing it, why they were doing it, how long they were doing it, and how long it was going to take them. So he didn't have to come down.
No, but he was making an appearance.
Oh.
To let them know that he sees what they're doing, I guess.
Oh, man.
You better think about this thing. That's part what he
And
said.
how far he let them get
Yeah.
before he.
Yeah.
Kind of like mama standing in the shadows, watching you do whatever you're doing.
Give you enough rope, you'll hang
Wait
yourself.
You'll
for
hang.
step out
Yeah.
and go, hey, what are y'all up?
Exactly. You've never
You
done
don't
that.
know exactly what y'all doing.
Because I've been watching you. Yeah. Verse 6, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. They've come together, they're working together, now they will do anything they want. But there's a word in there that really stood out to me. That word imagined. That word has been used before to describe man. Go back to chapter 6, verse 5. Remember, he says, nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Chapter 6, verse 5. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Nothing will restrain them which they have imagined to do. If everything of their imagination is only evil continually, you go back to verse 6 in chapter 11, nothing's going to stop them from doing all the evil that they can imagine they can do. Now remember, this is Nimrod's people. So to me, it's really interesting that God came down, that God has said before in chapter 6, verse 5 is God speaking. He saw the wickedness of man. He sees what they're doing in chapter 11, building the tower, and he knows nothing is going to restrain them. He's got to step in once again. Now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do.
You know what stands out too? In verse 7, come let us.
I highlighted let us go down. Those 4 words today I highlighted. Who's the us?
You have doubt of whether there's a Trinity or not. Who's us?
Yes.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
He didn't say we will go down, which would indicate 2. let us go down, which means more than two to me. So go to, let us go down, and there confound their language. The us is plural, meaning more than one, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and confound their language. Back in chapter 10, where the big picture was in verse 5, and everyone after his tongue and their families and their nations, this is the reason why God confounded their language, because nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. It didn't stop us eventually from doing everything we imagined we wanted to do, because we're still evil, sinful creatures. But God confounded. Could you imagine the moment that they couldn't understand each other? Because he confounded their language first before he scattered them abroad. So some of them could understand each other and others couldn't understand what they were saying. It had to be mass confusion, chaos, when he confounded their language.
They're wondering why you can't understand them.
When the moment before, they could understand him. And so in verse 8 it says, "So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city."
So they got scattered anyway.
They got scattered
They
anyway.
was trying to keep that from happening.
Yes. You go back to, what was it, verse 5? Verse 4. They wanted to build the tower in the city because they didn't want to be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. In verse 8, 4 verses later, the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. Not just, regionally in that area, but all the earth. There are, I want to say, if I remember my trip to the Creation Museum, like a couple of hundred different flood stories all over the world. What would explain that? These people are descendants of the 3 boys and the moms that came off the boat. God scattered them. They took the flood history with them when they were scattered. Makes perfect sense to me. But he scattered them. Man wouldn't do what God wanted, so God made what he wanted happen.
So, it's kind of like, who was it that he put in the whales?
Jonah?
Jonah, he didn't want to do what he wanted to do,
Yep.
he made him do it anyways.
Yep.
Okay. He read their thoughts and he knew that they didn't want to be scattered, so he did it anyway.
He did it anyway.
He's gonna get his way.
God's in control.
God's gonna get his way, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree with it.
When he has a reason for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go willingly and choose where you're
Exactly.
gonna
Yep.
settle at.
You'd be better off if you go willingly and do what he says.
And, you wonder, it said the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth. And at what means did he use to scatter it?
I wrote down,
You wonder, did they just appear in another country? Did they,
yeah,
did he
that's how it reads.
scoop them up, in what means did,
Just transform them.
Yeah.
I wrote down an amazing miracle, is what I wrote down, is how we scattered them.
Like in the upside.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they wouldn't do what he wanted them to do, so he
But
took
if
care.
that's the case, can you imagine they couldn't understand each other anyway? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they're from there, and then all of a sudden they're over here in Africa someplace, and like, I was over here and it was dry, and what's going on here?
Yeah.
No wonder they were confused and.
Yeah, but don't you feel like that sometimes when you're trying to talk to a younger generation and you're trying to explain things and you feel like they are not understanding a word you're telling them? But
They know anything.
Coming out of my
They
mouth.
ain't comprehending what it is.
And you're still speaking the same language, and you put these others together, and all of a sudden they're all speaking different languages.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find somebody that understands you.
I know it don't sound right, but it'd probably be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Today it's hilarious.
If you knew what was going on, you watch all that, and you just like it's, when you're watching it, like they don't know what, probably smacking each other, like, what are you saying,
Exactly.
You know, multiple of us have said, well, if they would have just done what God said,
Yeah.
but how many times have we not done what God said?
Exactly. I did it for about a
And
few
how many
years.
more
Yeah.
times are we gonna do something?
Exactly. So, the Tower of Babel is, what it was called, the Tower of Babel, is interesting to me because it was in the land of Babylon. But the history of this is short, but we need this history placed here so we understand, moving forward, we understand all the different people groups and stuff like that as to how they came about. Without,
Now, 8 people populated an entire world.
exactly. So how do we tell somebody that doesn't believe this, well, how'd everybody get everywhere? Well, let me tell you. I know, and I can show you in the Bible. Short history, but it's important history. So, thoughts, comments?
But it's not relevant, I guess, and I wonder how they got to it. Wonder how it was.
That's
It didn't get very far, I'm sure.
it doesn't say how high it was.
It came right down while they were
No.
talking about doing it.
All you know is God stopped it because there was nothing would be restrained from them which they have imagined to do, and our imagination is nothing but evil. So, any other thoughts?